Hi friends, welcome back. Last time I shared with you how I accepted Jesus into my heart as a young 10-year-old, and that although the moment was very joyful, that my stepdad really turned it into something that was bad, and that was very significant in my life. About 3 weeks later, after that event, my mom and sister went to a mother-daughter tea at our church, and my stepdad was at home babysitting me and my half-brother at the time, who was just very young. He was probably a baby at that time. And that night, while my mom and sister were gone, my stepdad called me out of my room in the pretense of watching television with him, and he proceeded to sexually abuse me. That was a life-changing event that I never forgot. It was not the only event that happened, but that was really the beginning of many years of abuse. I never repressed that memory, but there were other memories that I had blocked throughout my life. What I didn't know is that my stepfather was also abusing my older sister, who was 4 years older than me. And about a month after this happened, my mom came to me and started questioning me. And as far as I know, I think my sister may have said something to my mom. And I told my mom then at that time what had happened. But I never heard another word about it from my mom, and life just went on. My stepfather continued abusing my older sister, and she really got the brunt of even more abuse than I did. She has been married 6 times, is an alcoholic, and as many survivors of abuse, she has been trying to anesthetize the pain through alcohol or drugs, and that's not uncommon. By God's grace, I did not get into drugs or alcohol, but I did the best I could do to bury those things. And the way that I covered up some of the abuse was just to really become a really stellar student, and I just overperformed in order to make up for the deficit that I felt the abuse had marked me with. I want to tell you that during this time, after I told my mom, life went on, and we continued looking like the normal Christian family. In fact, my stepfather, was in charge of the building project at our church, and we looked normal as any family within the church. But the abuse continued. I didn't know until much later in life that my stepfather was also abused as a child. And I'm here to tell you that abuse issues, if not addressed, have the potential of being carried on from one generation to the next, to the next, to the next. And so my stepfather, as I learned later, had been abused by 2 family members and continued that cycle of abuse. And so the way I dealt with all of that really was to become an overachiever. And so I became an excellent student, a leader. I was really trying to cover up the insecurity that I felt inside by just performing to prove that I was someone. And of course, none of this was I aware of at the time. And in fact, had someone come to me around, age 16 or 17, and had they found out about the abuse, I would have said, I'm fine. It didn't affect me, even though it went on for years. So that is very common. And in our time over the next few posts, I'll be sharing with you even some common, what I call symptomatology of people, men and women, who've been abused. And one of those is what I've said, just covering it up, repressing the memory, which means it's forgotten, it's put behind you, and other things like depression. I had migraine headaches every week of my life for a period of time, and many other symptoms that really are warning signs of something inside. Now, that doesn't mean that one or two of those symptoms are indications that you may have been abused, but I will share with you kind of as we go along a profile. And so before we go on to the next post, which I'll share how in the next post, how for many years I was the good girl. I was the president of National Honor Society in high school. I was a cheerleader. I did all these things to help to bolster my self-image. But there was an experience that happened around 18 that I went the other way. And this good girl then became the bad girl. So I hope you'll tune in next time, and I'll share more of the story.